Hello, welcome to another interview of the PCOS Summit. PCOS standing for Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And this is the third summit we're doing. This is 2018. And the theme is how to beat the mental and physical overwhelm of PCOS. And we have selected specialists who understand PCOS and hormones and women's health, who can help you understand all the little tweaks in your personal life that can make all the difference to how your PCOS does or does not manifest. And today we have Dr. Kris Sargent, who is going to be talking on unraveling the mysteries of PCOS. What is this condition where your doctor can't even tell you in a straightforward way what you need to do in order to lose weight or get pregnant or beat anxiety or whatever it is that PCOS sort of holds you down with? So over to you, Dr. Kris. Please introduce yourself and launch straight into it.
Great. Thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate you inviting me here, and I'm so excited about this because I think one of my gifts is to be able to teach physiology in a way that people can really understand it. And so I think that if it's not this mystery, oh God, one day I woke up with PCOS, how did I get here? And then the doctors tell you, well, there's nothing you can do about it. So you end up feeling like this victim of your body. And then you end up with this really weird relationship with your body that you feel like is just betraying you. And so what I'm going to bring to the table today is some kind of crazy drawings of how everything gets interrelated. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my name's Dr. Kris Sargent, and I've been in functional medicine for 26 plus years. I really grew up in a functional medicine household. That's not what it was called, but that's the way we grew up, eating really clean and exercising and drinking our water and some high C and lemonade, because my mom didn't know better, right? We always got good sleep. We had good mental health. And so that was the way we grew up. And that's really the basis of functional medicine right there, is our lifestyle, right? And so that's a little bit about me. I really believe that you can do anything, ladies, anything that you put your mind to. Anything that you decide that you're going to value, you'll be able to do it. Because that's where it goes, right? If we really value it, we figure out how to get it done. So this includes your health. So the stuff that I'm really proud of is I have way too many degrees, but psychology, biology in my undergrad, University of Central Florida, went to National University of Health Sciences, human biology, chiropractic, and then I got a postdoctoral master's in advanced clinical practice, which gave me 2 years of diagnosis, more diagnosis, internal diagnosis of all the internal disorders. But then on top of that, how to treat them through functional and herbal medicine. We actually had an MD and an ND teaching the class. So we got the best of both worlds, right? It was a very cool master's program. So that, along with thousands of hours in functional medicine, postdoctoral, hours, 26 years. So I know mostly know what I'm doing, right? So my passion is really all about getting this world healthy. I feel like 70% of us, at least here in the United States, are overweight and obese, and there are places in this world where what's taken our country 100 years to get to is taking them 20. Yeah. And that's like, that just should not be happening in this world. We're too advanced of a species to let food be our master. And we need to be able to master our food. So I'm really, really passionate about that piece. Eradicating diabetes, eradicating all this craziness around our lifestyles. And then on the personal side, I'm a single mom. I have 2 teenagers. My daughter Callan is 15 and my son is 13. Couldn't be more different. I've got an artist and an athlete. So I've got that. I've got a private practice. I do run a weight loss business. And soon I will have a whole online set of courses called DIY FM. So do-it-yourself functional medicine.
Ooh.
So you'll be able to bring this into your own home and figure out how you can do it, and I'll be teaching you along the way.
Wow. Okay. Good stuff.
So
that's what we need.
I do have a book. My book was published. It's called Simply Functional Medicine, and that was published in March of this year, and it's on Amazon. So there's that plug. Thanks.
Good plug too.
So today I want to let's dig into the root causes of PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because I think that when we pull it apart, it looks very confusing. But when we really look deep into it, for the majority, not for everybody, but for the majority of the patients out there, there are two main dysfunctions. One in adrenals, which comes from pituitary, right? So you kind of got a little bit of both, and we'll talk a little bit about pituitary. But so adrenal dysfunction, and then insulin resistance. And those are the two main places that I'm going to dig into today, so you can really understand how this whole thing started to come about, and maybe how far back did it start for you? Because in functional medicine, we look at a timeline. We don't just jump out of bed with PCOS, right? That doesn't happen, right? So what we need to understand is that everything that ever happened to our health from the day we were born till the day that you may be diagnosed with something, you are an accumulation of all of those health habits, or not so healthy habits, right? You are an accumulation of every antibiotic, every medication that you've ever been on, every toxin you were ever exposed to, every infection you ever had. All of those things make up your health and your immune system and your hormone system and the health of your ovaries, your adrenal glands, your pituitary, your thyroid, all the way through. So just if you can kind of grab a hold of that and understand that all of those things add up to what you're doing today. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know how old all of you are, but I know that in my 20s, I may or may not have had some not so great habits in college, right? Maybe I ate too much pizza, maybe I had a little too many beers, maybe some of you experimented with different drugs or whatever, but all of those things create where we're at today. Maybe you never had a great relationship with food. Maybe you need to have like a define the relationship with your food kind of talk, right? So that you can change that relationship. But anything that's happened to now is creating the outcome. All you're seeing currently is just the result of where you've been. So enough of that, right? Because that's boring. So I'm going to use some markers here. I've got my little jar of markers, and I have my whiteboard because this is how I teach my patients in my clinic. And we are going to talk about unraveling PCOS today. All right. And the first piece of PCOS that I really want to unravel is this adrenal portion. If you don't know what your adrenals do, they are your stress glands. So they produce stress hormones like cortisol. Most of us have heard of cortisol by this point. So they're your stress glands. They also have to do with water and mineral balance. Right? So that's basically what your adrenals do for you. If you get into a fight or flight mode, your adrenals kick on. If you maybe drink too much overnight and you lose some balance in your minerals because you've had too much alcohol or too much coffee or you ran a marathon, your adrenals will kick in to help balance those things out for you. That's what they do. So what are some of the things that disrupt adrenal function? Toxins, right? This can be environmental. It can be environmental. They could be in what we eat, right? They could be like pesticides that are in the air. They can be medications that we're on, and that doesn't mean that you need to go off them, but that's just understand these are toxins that will disrupt adrenal function. Okay? We'll talk about that a little bit more. What about infections? Infections are a stress, whether it's, yeast overgrowth or candida or just bad bacteria in your belly. We have more bacteria in our body than we have number of cells. So if you don't think that your bugs influence your adrenals, think again, right? 100 trillion bacteria. Wow. They're going to influence your entire body, right? From above, our pituitary up in our brain actually controls the adrenals through a set of about 15 different hormones, controls different body parts, right? And then for me, the big one, I'm going to scoot over here, is a lifestyle. And this is the one that nobody really wants to look at because this is the hard one. But this is the one where you have ultimate control, okay? This is about what you eat, what you drink, how you move, how you sleep, and how you think and feel. And you can control every single one of those pieces of your life. You may not think that you can control your feelings, but actually there is plenty of evidence out there to say that you can. So how does all of this affect your adrenals? Let's think about think and feel. Let's talk about think and feel. Because this is a two-way street, right? If we have trauma in our life, if we've ever had any kind of trauma, and that can be anything from, a girlfriend-boyfriend breakup to something more minor, like a fender bender in your car, or something major. Maybe you had a lot of major trauma in your life. Maybe you grew up in an abusive household, or maybe you've had an abusive relationship. I mean, there's any number of traumas that we could have, that can happen to any of us. So if there's trauma of some kind, your think and feel piece may be already out of balance a little bit. And that can impact your adrenal system. So this is a place that you can get some help with that, right? What about our sleep? I don't know about where you live, but in the United States, we wear a badge of courage if we only get 4 hours of sleep, right? I can do this on 4 hours of sleep. For how long? Because in the not too distant future, your adrenals are not going to be happy with you if you continue to only get 4 hours of sleep. And then what do, right? We coffee it up. So now we're going to move into drink, right? What do you think caffeine does to your adrenals? It's like a little whip, right? It whips your adrenals into making more adrenaline for you so that you can stay awake. So we drink coffee when we don't sleep properly. And then we're so wired up at the end of the day, what do? Grab our favorite glass of wine, right? So caffeine and alcohol both slam into the adrenals, causing much more adrenal fatigue than what you may have already had.
What about energy drinks?
Same thing, right? Most of them are caffeine or guarana or anything that any kind of stimulant is going to cause some adrenal fatigue. Unless you're supporting that with lots of B complex vitamins and really good blood sugar control, unless you're doing all those things, people who are grabbing an energy drink are not doing any of those other things, right? So good point though. Very good point. What about movement? What about exercise? What about walking your dog every day? What about using movement as a stress reliever? What about going to the gym and actually working out? Right? Or taking a run. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can just throw your tennis shoes on and take a run. Or no tennis shoes, right? Maybe barefoot's the way you want to go. But movement helps to reduce the amount of cortisol that we have in our bodies. So it can be beneficial unless you're over exercising, right? If you're overtraining, then we're increasing cortisol again and causing more adrenal fatigue. So 2 hours of exercise a day and drinking energy drinks and not eating properly, we're going to have a problem here. Mm-hmm. You're all like, okay, this is great, Dr. Sargent, but what does this got to do with my PCOS, right? We'll get there, I promise. I promise. And then food. Oh, food. If everybody could just keep their blood sugar even, which we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, adrenals would not be an issue at all, right? And probably neither would PCOS in the long run. And we're going to talk about insulin resistance in just a minute. But what I want you to understand is that any one of these pieces can really impact your adrenals. And so let's talk about how our adrenals end up creating dysfunction that creates this PCOS model that we've just talked about. First of all, we talked about increased cortisol levels, right? So when you have cortisol levels, that's going to disrupt your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA levels. Regardless of whether you have PCOS or not, that's going to disrupt their production. So just understand that high cortisol levels will just start that imbalance. And this is where it starts, right? Remember our timeline. So you have a trauma that you never really get over. You end up having high cortisol levels. Maybe you don't sleep well. Now you've started that cortisol push, right? And it doesn't happen overnight. It can happen in 2, 3, 4, 10 years, right? It can happen over time. Depends on how bad it is. So higher cortisol levels lead to your hormonal imbalance. Understand that each one of these factors that we just talked about also affect your pituitary gland. And so when your pituitary gland is affected, maybe it's not talking very well to your adrenal glands. So maybe now your adrenals can't pump out the estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, primarily DHEA, right, and pregnenolone properly. This is getting messy. I'm gonna start. We'll give you a new one, I promise. So just understand that all of these factors affect your whole body. It's not just gonna go in and, oh, this bad lifestyle, adrenals. No, it affects everything. So pituitary gets involved, and if your pituitary isn't talking to your adrenals, it's like when your girlfriend gets all up in your face and you guys aren't talking, it doesn't work very well, right? So your adrenals don't stop working the way that they should be working. So does that explain where some of the hormonal imbalances start with the adrenals?
Absolutely.
Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And maybe people will start to understand that less and less that there's no shortcut to achieving or correcting these things.
No, there's no magic pill. And the last time I checked, the magic wands were absolutely back ordered forever on Amazon. Right? There is no magic wand left on Amazon. Ding, ding, ding. No, none. No magic pills, no magic. All right, so let's go back to our lifestyle. And when we look at lifestyle, eat, drink, move, sleep, think, and feel. All of these pieces also affect how our body makes other hormones, right? We've talked about that. It also impacts how your body handles glucose. And this is the piece where insulin becomes the bad guy, right? So insulin becomes the bad guy because of our own choices. I know I'm not going to be the popular one right now. It's not going to be a popular topic. But here's the deal with insulin. Let's talk about this. When we eat the standard breakfast, what happens? Our standard breakfast over here that most of my patients eat is oatmeal.
For those that do eat breakfast, right?
Yeah, for those that do it. If you're skipping, you've already shot your cortisol up. Just so you know, if you're skipping breakfast, you're breaking down your muscle tissue right now, and you're shooting your cortisol up so that your brain can keep going. Because your brain doesn't care where it gets its glucose from, and it's going to attack your muscles first. Not what you want, because our muscles help with insulin resistance. So eat breakfast and eat protein, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. So when you eat carbs, whether it's a muffin through Starbucks, whatever, right? When you eat carbs, your glucose levels or blood sugar levels go straight up and then crash. This is about a 2-hour window. Up here, insulin shoves the glucose into your cells, right? It pushes glucose across through little doorways, little insulin doorways in your cell. All right? So down here, this is what I call the crash and crave, right? Because what happens about 10 o'clock in the morning? Right? You're sitting at your desk and you just want to take a nap, or you grab that granola bar, right? Or another cup of coffee full of sugar. And we do this again. And you get another 2 hours, and then we crash and crave, and we go to lunch. And we eat some kind of crapness, and we do this again, and we do it again around 3 o'clock in the afternoon with our candy bar, and then we go out to dinner and eat pizza because we're so fatigued from doing this all day that we don't feel like making dinner. Mm-hmm. And then we just go home and like veg out, kind of in a coma, and watch television. When you do this over time, your cells get pretty mad. And they show how mad they are by shutting down insulin receptors. So what does that mean to you, right? So you've got this cell, right? This is our cell. You've got sugar out here, right? Lots of sugar out here. And you've got some little openings here called insulin receptors, right? They're like little gates. And when insulin comes along, it opens the gate. It's a very simplified version. We're making this easy, folks, right? So then the sugar can get into the cell. And that's a normal response, right? Totally normal. Most of the sugar goes into the cell. The little bit that's left over goes to your liver and becomes triglycerides. Now, over time, if you keep pounding this cell with more and more and more and more glucose every single day, let's say you started with 20 receptors on this cell, right? Your cells are like, whoa, wait a minute. We can't take in all this glucose anymore. You keep feeding us all this glucose, but we're full. We're done. So these little receptors, these little gates, quit opening. The insulin is here, right? We have insulin, but it's not being able to open the gates anymore. That's insulin resistance. Your body no longer recognizes insulin to do its job. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's like the boy that cried wolf.
Yes, exactly. And so insulin just finally shuts stuff down. Now your cells can't get enough, right? And now your brain thinks you're hungry all the time, right? So you keep eating, and you're eating more. And what's happening to all the sugar? I already told you. Where does all this excess sugar go? It turns into triglycerides, right here. Triglycerides. Triglycerides get stored into our favorite places. Booty, belly, figure it out, because that's where it's going. And some of this is about...
Never the breasts.
Yeah, right? Really. And what you need to know is that about 10 to 30% of that is genetically determined. So if you have a genetic propensity or a genetic tendency to store it around your middle, that's going to increase your propensity to end up with diabetes, PCOS, and anything that has to do with insulin resistance. I am not that girl. I gain it all in my J-Lo. So I would make her jealous. So even though diabetes does run in my family, I've been pretty diligent about understanding this so that this doesn't happen, right? Because these triglycerides become very dangerous for you, and this is the start of a lot of cardiovascular issues. It's the beginning of fatty liver, because this happens in your liver. So all this excess glucose goes into your liver, and it's like hanging out. Okay, what are we supposed to do here? And your liver's like, oh crap, let me gather up a bunch of you, and we turn it into this long chain called the triglyceride. And then we're going to shove it back into the bloodstream. Your triglycerides go up, your cholesterol levels go up. Sound familiar? And then it gets stuck on your wherever. Okay, so this is insulin resistance. And this is all about food, right? This is all about eating way too many carbohydrates. So what? You're still going, okay, what does that got to do with my PCOS? So here's the deal. Insulin in high amounts, because your body's trying to shove more and more glucose in, so it keeps making more and more insulin. Insulin turns on an inflammatory pathway that causes your estrogen and your DHEA to create testosterone. Testosterone causes hair to grow where us women really don't want it to grow, right? Mm-hmm. It causes, abnormal hair growth. It causes acne for us, right? It causes irritability and mood swings. And it creates its own little separate issue all by itself, because the feedback loops for testosterone are inflammatory for most of us females. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is all out of insulin resistance. Along with this, you end up with this perpetual circle with insulin resistance in the center, right? IR, insulin resistance, creating this hormone imbalance. Fat storage. Right? Fat storage. Insulin resistance then starts impacting your adrenals, which we've already discussed. Right? It goes back and forth, right? It creates a leptin imbalance. Leptin is another hormone that allows you to feel full. Right? And leptin, your body also, you end up with more leptin as your fat cells grow, and then you become leptin resistant as well as insulin resistant, and they're independent factors. They can create independent factors, right? So now we've got this hormone balance. We've got, now we have an increased risk because we've increased our triglycerides, we've increased cholesterol, we've increased inflammation. Now, based on your genetics, right, we already know that you can go for the PCOS thing, right? But now we can have diabetes, type 2, most likely, right? Cardiovascular disease.
At what age?
Oh God, this can start in teens and 20s.
Wow.
If they've been eating If kids are not introduced to good, healthy habits as little ones, by the time they get to be teenagers and 30-somethings, oops, that was my 30 minutes.
I'm enjoying this so much.
So anyway, just understand that these are all, this fat storage creates all of these things too, right? These are two-way streets, folks. So once this thing starts to roll, the only way to undo this is to change what you're eating. Change how you move your body. When you move on a regular basis, even if you just like to get some good dance moves in, I'm sure that my son is cringing right now. I know, right? Move your body. It helps to burn off the cortisol. It helps your body use the blood sugar more efficiently and effectively. Drink water. Stay away from the caffeine. Start unraveling those pieces that we've talked about, right? Eat, drink, move, sleep. 6 hours, man. You gotta have 6. There is nothing less just to help with getting these hormones back in balance. And then think and feel. Believe that you have the power to take control of this. Really believe it. Is it going to look perfect? Are you going to stay away from whatever your demons are? Mine is popcorn and key lime pie. Those are my little, I know it's crazy, but like those are my carbohydrate demons. No, popcorn isn't good for you. It's nothing but a white carbohydrate. And key lime pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So eat, drink, move, sleep, think and feel. Get a different relationship with food and your life and your lifestyle. And really, you can take control of all of this. I've seen it happen. I see it happen in practice every day and have for the many, many years. Is this the only piece of it? No. But I believe that having a strong bedrock foundation of your lifestyle allows a lot less of this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I hope that all of that makes sense to everybody, and I hope that that sort of unraveled some of the mysteries of how this whole thing started for you. You have to look at your own timeline, and I know there's a couple of really good tools out there to look at your timeline, and I'll have that put in our ebook so that you can answer some questions about yourself so that you understand where did this whole thing actually start. You know, maybe it was the birth of one of your children that kicked it off. Maybe it was that summer that you broke your leg and you quit exercising, right? And then you just started eating out of control. Maybe you just never really had a good relationship with food. Maybe you just never had a good relationship with your body. And you have to learn how to love on this thing so that it will love you back, right? So I fully believe that lifestyle medicine is the medicine of the future, here, now, functional medicine. So, questions, comments, concerns?
Well, no, I think a lot of people are hopefully going to understand more about their bodies and their minds in managing PCOS, and they're going to understand why a lot of the medication and treatments and the procedures they've gone through were doomed to fail from the outset.
Right.
Because it's like trying to, okay, this is a really disgusting metaphor.
Go for it.
If a dog poops on your porch and you get a broom and start sweeping through it, you make more mess. You just spread the mess. And a lot of what people are doing with PCOS, they are spreading the mess.
Right.
Agitating the hormones even more with all kinds of stuff. And sometimes the spreading of the mess can be very expensive. If you're looking at IVF and a whole lot of stuff people do, acne treatments, majorly expensive. Why is it not working and sorting out the problem?
Right.
Because of what you're saying, the mystery of PCOS.
Because they haven't really gotten to the lifestyle piece. And you know, the lifestyle piece really drives what we are. You know, that whole old saying, Jimmy, of you are what you eat. Like I have a love-hate relationship with that because it's so cliche. People are like, yeah. They don't even listen anymore. But if you're putting fast food into your cell structure, it's like putting diesel fuel into your car.
Mm-hmm.
If you put diesel fuel into a car that is electric, right?
Yeah.
Or trying to appeal to our millennials out there. Or you put diesel fuel into a regular gasoline car, you're going to gunk up the works, right? Your engine is ultimately going to seize and stop running.
That's it.
It's the same thing. You put fast food in this thing, and what you're going to get out is not the Ferrari that you could have. It's going to be the old clunker that doesn't move.
Yeah.
It's going to be the tank that no longer runs. So what you eat determines the health of every single cell. And if you're putting in fast food, you're not going to get fast health. You're going to get junk health.
Absolutely.
Start putting in fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, getting as fresh of air as you possibly can, and moving your body. We have muscles. We're not meant to be couch potatoes, right? We have muscles. That's right. We're supposed to be moving them. And we need to use that to our own advantage to heal our body.
Yeah. You mentioned an ebook. Were you teasing us, or have you got something for us?
I do have something for you. So it's going to be called Unraveling the Mysteries of PCOS. I will have pretty much everything that I just went through in the ebook written out for you. And then I'll have some more solutions for you so that you can really kind of dive into what does your diet really need to look like? How to, you know, what's a good place, simple place to start. I call my book Simply Functional Medicine because I want to keep it simple. It doesn't have, there's a lot of great diets out there. There's a lot of gaps, and there's this carbohydrate and that carbohydrate diet, and go gluten-free and do all these things. And that's awesome. And if you're ready to take on the Whole30 or the autoimmune protocol or some of these really intense things, that's great. But if you don't know where to start, that's where I'm at.
Good stuff.
I'm at the keep it simple level.
Yeah.
Right? What are some of the things, like the 5 or 6 things that you can do to get started? So that'll be in my ebook. Okay.
And people can find it, for the benefit of those listening to this, at www.restoryoU.com.
Yep.
/PCOS-ebook. And it'll be written on your page. It'll be on your speaker's page, and also at the bottom of the video.
Yes, it's all going to be right there. It should be pretty easy to find.
Brilliant. And you may also have some handouts as well to go with this presentation.
Right. I'll draw up some of these for you so you can kind of maybe fill in the blanks as I go, right?
Fantastic. You know, our attendees are going to love you. I know it. I love you already. So
thank you. I appreciate that so much. I love doing this when I can unravel the craziness of what we do to our bodies. That just makes me happy. And I when I see the light bulb go on in my patients or client, that's for me, right? It's if you can understand it, then you can own it. You know, you're not just doing it for some random reason that you don't really understand all the connection.
Yeah, that's it. Having the why.
Yes. Yeah, you can understand the why when you go in and grab that donut. You know, maybe that's not the best thing to do here for fat storage, right? We're just going to turn all that sugar into triglycerides, and here's the mess that creates.
Yeah. Okay, well, Dr. Kris, thank you so much. If you were in my neighborhood, you'd be my doctor.
Thank you.
And I don't have PCOS, but the wisdom you speak to as to how to get the best out of your body, that's awesome. Thank you very much for being a part of the PCOS Summit.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.